It started with a hiss. A soft, almost inaudible sound, like a whisper of air moving where it shouldn't. 17-year-old Madison Clark lay in bed, half asleep, as the Arizona summer heat clung to her like a second skin. Her ceiling fan clicked rhythmically above her, spinning uselessly in the humid, still air. The AC in their duplex was old and temperamental, but this sound didn't feel mechanical. It was too gentle, too alive. At first, she thought she imagined it. It wasn't uncommon to hear odd sounds at night. Pipes expanding, wind against the windows, her parents moving around downstairs. She'd grown up in this house, in the quiet suburbs of North Phoenix. Nothing bad ever happened here. But that night, she heard it again. A drawn-out breath, sucked in as though from behind the walls. Then another, closer. She stared up at the ceiling vent directly above her bed, her heart tapping nervously against her ribs. The vent was rectangular, painted white, and tucked into the corner of the room. It had always been there, part of the old HVAC system that grown to life during Phoenix's triple-digit heat waves. But tonight, the air wasn't blowing. The house was silent, and still, she heard breathing. When she told her parents the next morning, they brushed it off. Her dad chuckled, explaining that duct systems sometimes echoed sounds weirdly. "You're just not used to it," he said, flipping eggs in a skillet. "It's probably the AC motor rattling. Or a bird nesting near the roof. These old houses creak like they're alive." Her mom agreed. "You've been staying up too late, Mads. Less horror podcasts, more sleep." Madison wanted to believe them. She wanted it to be just her imagination. But it got worse. 2 nights later, around 1:30 a.m., she woke up again. This time it wasn't just breathing. It was a voice. She froze under her blanket, too afraid to move. The voice came softly from the vent, like someone speaking through cupped hands, muffled but deliberate. "You're prettier when you sleep." Her whole body tensed. The voice was male, raspy, a whisper barely louder than the sound of her own heartbeat. She didn't scream. She didn't even breathe. She just stared at the vent in horror until the whisper faded into the quiet buzz of her bedside clock. The next morning, her hands trembled as she recounted what she'd heard. Her parents were less amused now, but still skeptical. "Madison," her mom said cautiously, "are you absolutely sure it wasn't a dream?" Whispering, "That's a serious thing to say." "I'm not making it up," she snapped. "Someone's in the house." Or, above it, her dad climbed into the attic that afternoon, flashlight in hand. He pushed aside dusty insulation, scanned the wooden beams, even tapped on the metal ducts. "Nothing up there," he announced when he came down, wiping sweat from his forehead. "No animals, no signs of anyone breaking in. But I'll call someone to check the vents just in case." The HVAC guy came the next day. He poked around the system, examined the ducts in the attic and under the house. "Pretty standard setup," he said with a shrug. "Old, but functional. No way anyone's crawling around in there. These ducts aren't even wide enough for a raccoon." The first one was under her pillow. She found it after school. A torn scrap of lined notebook paper, folded in half. Her name written on the front in pencil. Inside, in slanted handwriting, "I like your blue pajamas the best. You look safe in them." She dropped the note and backed away from her bed like it was a crime scene. Tears welled up as she screamed for her mom. This time, her parents didn't dismiss her. Her dad locked all the windows and called the police. The officer who showed up, Officer Rayner, was a lanky, middle-aged man with kind eyes and a stiff demeanor. He took Madison's statement seriously, photographed the note, and called in forensics to dust for prints. But nothing came of it. No fingerprints, no signs of forced entry. "There's no indication anyone broke into your house," Rayner said, clearly disturbed but unsure how to proceed. "It's possible it's a prank, someone at school, maybe. I don't have enemies," Madison said, her voice shaking. "And no one else knows my room like that. I don't even wear those pajamas to school events or post photos online." That night, she slept with the light on. And still, the whisper came. "You cry too much. It makes your face red." She bolted upright, grabbing her phone, recording just in case. She caught only silence, but she swore she saw something move, a shadow, maybe, behind the vent slats. She stood on her desk chair and held her phone up to the vent, recording blindly through the gaps. The video showed nothing, but when she lowered the phone and looked again, something inside the vent blinked. Eyes, two pale, unblinking eyes watching her from the darkness. She screamed. Her parents rushed in, saw her crying on the floor, shaking and pointing at the ceiling. Her dad grabbed a hammer and a stepladder, climbed up, and yanked the vent cover off the ceiling. It was empty, but what none of them saw at the time, what they didn't notice until days later, was that a few of the screws on the vent cover were freshly installed. New, shiny. Unlike the rest, Madison refused to sleep in that room after that. She moved into the guest room, and her parents set up a motion-detecting camera in her old bedroom. For 3 nights, nothing happened. The camera picked up only dust particles and the occasional flicker from the hallway night light. Then on the 4th night, at exactly 3:08 a.m., the camera triggered. A man dropped from the ceiling. He was thin, dirty, and pale. His clothes were shredded rags. His hair was greasy and matted. He crawled down from the open vent like a spider, landing silently on the carpet. He moved around the room slowly, touching the walls, crouching in front of the mirror. He reached under the bed, retrieved a small black notebook, flipped it open, wrote something, then placed the notebook on the pillow and climbed silently back into the vent. The police were called immediately. When they arrived, they tore open the ceiling and followed the duct system into the attic. Tucked in a dusty corner behind the insulation, they found a small bedding area made of old blankets, food wrappers, and a stolen flashlight. A homeless man, later identified as Daniel Krause, had been living in the duct system for at least 2 weeks. Maybe longer. He was arrested on the spot. In his backpack were dozens of notes written to Madison. Some were love letters, some were strange, rambling thoughts about protecting her. Others were deeply disturbing fantasies. But when they asked him about the mirrors, he said nothing. Because Madison hadn't told the police about the mirrors yet, it was the contractor who noticed them first. A month after Krause's arrest, the Clarks hired a crew to redo the drywall and inspect the ductwork more thoroughly. One of the workers paused while examining the wall in Madison's room. "This mirror's strange," he said. "Feels hollow." He tapped it, heard a thud, then tapped again. Eventually, they removed the mirror entirely. Behind it was a small cavity. A narrow space, carved crudely between the studs of the wall. Inside was a chair, a cushion, a collection of candy wrappers, and holes, peepholes, leading straight through the back of the mirror. Invisible from the front, but perfect from the inside. Someone had been watching her. Long before Krause, the cavity had old nails, cobwebs, and cigarette butts dried with age. Someone had built this years ago. It wasn't part of the original house blueprints. The previous owners had remodeled the house, sure, but no one ever reported anything strange. Madison never moved back into that room. And even after Krause was locked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that something else had been going on, something older, stranger, buried under years of drywall and silence. Sometimes, late at night, in the safety of her new bedroom across the hall, she still hears the whisper. "You're prettier when you sleep." And now, it's not coming from the vent. It's coming from behind the mirror in her closet.